I'm Gina Bell, and I'm a storyteller. I wanted to give you a little bit of background before I begin Toffee Lover. I wrote this little novella after the death of my own mother. I was really struggling with what to write on her headstone, and it wasn't until I completed Toffee Lover that I was able to do that. I do suggest that you listen to Toffee Lover with a nice hot cup of tea and maybe some toffee if you're lucky enough to have any around you. Toffee Lover is dedicated to good mothers. The main character and the one you hear speaking, his name is David, and he's a man. So please put your imagination caps on while I go ahead and read for him. To good mothers everywhere. Thank you. I'm Gina Bell, and I'm a storyteller. This is Toffee Lover. We walk through much of life alone and silently. How few of us ever get to tell the truth about who we really are and what we really want, what we really need. Most of us lack the courage to unleash our own vulnerabilities upon those around us. Our true selves locked away, forever, chameleoning to fit into the environment around us. Chameleons, however, do not love, and they do not need to be loved. They blend their colors only to survive, left to wander through life, hiding in plain sight, surrounded by strangers we don't trust enough to love the lizard within. Someone you can stare deep into the eyes of and know you are safe, loved completely and exactly for who you really are. What a unique find this must be. The sky, a kaleidoscope of swirly gray clouds, hangs over Seattle. The beach clings to the mountains and its waves pound the shore again and again. My mother passed away 2 months ago, and I'm still having a hard time knowing what to do with my time. I was with her 24/7 at the end. I bathed her, fed her, and changed her. Well, I'm sure you understand. It was a labor of love. Then she passed, and I spent a week sleeping and dreaming, reoccurring dreams of being trapped inside other people's bodies and trying desperately to become those people enough so others were not aware of my possessings. What the hell do these dreams say about me? Regardless, I'm now back in the land of the living, and if I'm not mistaken, this would be her Wednesday. I situate myself at my favorite table at my favorite coffee place, Toffee Lover. Toffee Lover is a Seattle coffee bar. They also make candy, fudge, and toffee. Amazing toffee, and the atmosphere is truly unique. Deep walnut wood covers its walls and floors. An old Western-style bar with a 20-foot mirror sits against the back wall. Hand-carved bar stools with swivel hug up against it. The baristas concoct all sorts of coffee flavors and are encouraged to invent new recipes. The sounds of steam like little trains leaving their stations fills the bar's cavity. A single oboe sings sweetly from strategically placed speakers. One wall housed bookshelves brimming with well-used books, famous classics, thrilling mysteries, and special children's books. A small sign reads, "If you have read something special, please leave it here so it can move someone else as well." Folks are encouraged to bring their favorite books and place them amongst the others in an attempt to share the best of the best. The books are worn from use. The more tattered and dog-eared, the higher the honors. These are the ones to look for. Notations from anonymous readers fill their pages. Notations like, "I love this part," or Can't you just feel the ocean breeze from the pirate ship? This had become a secret way for us to share a few thoughts with no personal reward or judgment. The tables, always covered in fresh butcher paper, invite the welcome doodler. Fine and freshly sharpened dark brown pencils with the words Toffee Lover in cream-colored writing sitting on the bookshelves and tables in little wooden boxes with raised lettering that read, "Sometimes we need reminding that we are all artists." Every once in a while, the owner would frame a drawing from a stray piece of butcher paper and hang it on the wall. Her favorites, I assume. I found this amazing, not because of anything more than the fact that she obviously takes the time to look at them. She preserves a tiny piece of someone's imagination. I can imagine her standing pensively over piles of sketches on butcher paper in search of her next piece of art she will frame and share with us all. These are some truly amazing sketches adorning Toffee Lover's walls. There are big puffy couches with pillows and reading lamps near the books. Permanent chess tables sit against the windows with little wooden boxes in the shape of castles. In the mini castles, wooden chess pieces huddled together waiting for their next big battle. Pictures of customers speckle the walls. One is of a woman reading a copy of The Giving Tree to a little boy. Someone had scribbled "the most important book ever written" in huge black marker across the cover. Over the register is a photo of two weathered old men playing chess. They are both fondling their scruffy gray beards while staring intently at the chessboards. Their beards appear to be speckled with toffee crumbs. The ocean behind the two old men churns violently in a storm. Outside there is a patio with heated lamps and comfortable seats. A black tarp shelters it from the elements. Beautiful soft throws lie folded in wooden boxes with a sign that reads, "Never forget the value of snuggling." Water bowls and some pet beds for those four-legged friends. The middle of the bar sits Toffee Lover's huge, hand-carved tree. Its branches take up most of the ceiling and are complete with hand-carved leaves and flowers. At the tree's base is a cork-type material that looks like grass with cushions and a couple of benches. The tree is always decorated with white tiny lights. The staff would change the tree decorations from time to time for different holidays. Toffee Lover is truly one woman's labor of love, and I want to know her. Not just because she is astonishingly bohemian and I might say even beautiful with her thick, curly, dark brown hair, and not just because every inch of Toffee Lover spills over with the symbols of this unique and lovely soul she must possess, but also because she has the loveliest feet I have ever seen. At this point, I don't even know her name. Everyone at the bar just calls her Toffee. Across the street is Dita Bella. They specialize in something that's very close to my heart. They specialize in pedicures, the care and maintenance of the female foot. I remember the first time I became aware of my passion for feet. My mother had brought in a babysitter. This was a truly rare event for me, an event I remember as if it were yesterday. She walked in while politely addressing me. "Hello there, young sir. I am Juliet, and you are?" she asked while bending down to my size and sticking out her hand to shake mine. Juliet was tall and slender. She wore a man's hat with a red flower pinned to it. Her raven black hair was tied loosely behind her head with a swirly red ribbon. Her hair was straight with the exception of two thin ringlets that fell in front of her ears. The 2 long curls trailed down her face and neck. She wore black jeans, combat boots, and a feminine black sweater. The sweater draped her shoulders and was clasped by one red button at the neckline. The combat boots were laced with red ribbon. No doubt the ribbon had been chosen to match the flower, or vice versa. She cradled a stack of books under her arm. Her skin was like milk. My mother kissed the top of my head and left in her fanciest outfit. I sat across the couch and watched my feet dangle over the side. I could feel Juliet watching me. Finally, she broke the silence. "May I read to you?" she asked, while tapping her red-laced combat-style boot. She didn't wait for me to answer, but rather she began unlacing. I watched her every movement as she carefully pulled and flipped the red laces from their eyelets. She slipped them off and unveiled dainty, beautifully fresh, pedicured feet. Her toenails were short, but not too short. All 10 porcelain toes in order of length. Her feet looked as though they had never touched the ground. They looked so soft, and I wanted so badly to touch them, but I refrained. She came and sat beside me on my mother's brown leather couch with all her books in hand. She smelled wonderful, a little bit flowery and a little bit spicy, and all mixed up together. "What is your pleasure?" she asked, as she laid each book down on the coffee table in front of me. I pointed to the one with the pirate on the cover. "Intrigue on the high seas it shall be," she responded while slipping the book from amongst the others. Then the fine Juliet began to read, and she read with such enthusiasm. I could not help but listen intently. My mother was an English professor at the University of Washington, and Juliet was undoubtedly one of her students. Juliet and my mom must have liked one another. She was the only sitter I ever had, and after Mom came home that night, they stayed up most of the night talking, drinking wine, and laughing. When I woke the next morning, there were still wine glasses on the tables and boxes filled with my mom's books. It was all emptied and strewn all over the floor. Mom had lots of books, and they were displayed, but her favorites were stored. Her favorites were tattered, dog-eared, and written in. I wasn't allowed to play with those, but Mom said someday they would be mine, and I could do with them as I pleased. Juliet read to me a tale of pirates and treasure. I was enthralled, and all the while I stared at her perfect feet. She had on a most beautiful deep burgundy glossy polish. I watched the reflection of the overhead fan spin in them. At that single moment, I became fascinated by the female foot. I wanted to touch them, caress them, love them. Juliet reinforced this for me when she left her dainty black sweater behind. Now, normally I would have returned it. I was a good kid. But her sweater, I kept. I hid it between my mattress and box spring for years, and every once in a while I swore. I caught a subtle whiff of Juliet. One year Mom gave me a new bed for my birthday. It was bigger and more comfortable. It was a great gift, but it was all set up when I got home from school. Mom had the old one disposed of. Juliet's sweater was gone, and I'll tell you, I missed it. My first job as a teen was as a shoe salesman in the ladies' department at Nordstrom. Classical music played all day, and was played by a real pianist on a grand piano in the middle of the store. I enjoyed Mozart while getting paid to try shoes on women. It was heaven. Sitting at the patio of the Toffee Lover, I stare out at the ocean and watch the waves. A storm is brewing and the wind whips leaves and paper from the street into the air. I am sheltered here as I sip mocha and chomp on toffee. A heat lamp fills the air around me with warmth as I wait. Then I see Toffee. She's trying to cross the street in front of me. She's wearing a long, dark brown skirt with tiny black flowers and a puffy black sweater. Her hair dances in the wind and blows onto her face. She swipes it away while checking for traffic and then crosses the street. I watch as she exchanges pleasantries with the women in the salon. I watch intently as she removes her shoes and places her beautiful toes into the sudsy, bubbling water. I can see a tiny sparkle from her anklet. It's reflecting off the beam of sunlight not yet covered by Seattle's heavy cloud cover. Reaching for a pencil, I begin to sketch her magnificent feet on the fresh butcher paper at my table in front of me. The first time I saw her feet was by complete accident. I had stopped by Dita Bella and peered through the window. There she was, the dark-haired beauty I had seen so many times at Toffee Lover. This, however, was the first time I had seen her feet. At that exact second, I fell in love with her feet. Ah, my favorite part. The pedicurist rubs lotion over her feet and calves and rubs it all in. It's beginning to rain now, and the sky is darkening. The tarp above me is billowing in the storm, and I am again in heaven. In a corner behind me, a couple snuggle up in a blanket as a waitress comes by to clean off some of the tables. In a quick swoop, she pulls the butcher paper from a table and crumples it in one hand. Startled by the sudden sound of violent crackling paper, I turn away from the salon. Looking back, I see that my muse is also looking at this human paper shredder. She quickly says something to the woman massaging her toes and bolts from her seat. She dashes out the door barefoot and runs back towards me. She approaches the waitress. "Excuse me," Toffee yells in a whisper. "Please, I need to look at the drawings before they are ever thrown away." Toffee pulled the crumpled heap of paper from her and gently smoothed it out on the table in front of them. The waitress looks as if she's been slapped. "I am so sorry," the shredder lady apologizes. "It didn't seem like something you would frame. I'm so sorry, Toffee." She laments again with regret in her tone. I can't help but feel bad for the girl a little, and a little awkward for myself as well. I am very close in proximity to this conversation. And then Toffee responds. "It's not only about finding something frameable. Through their doodles, my clients give me 100% honest feedback of the way they feel while they are in my bar. What are they thinking about, or their desires? A doodle really says something about the doodler. For example," she uncrumpled a piece of butcher paper from the waitress's arms and smoothed it out on the table. "This one shows a lot of tension. The weird, abstract shapes in the darkened areas show someone who's having trouble concentrating. I see this, and I turn down the music or dim the lights a bit. Now I know that the source of his tension may have absolutely nothing to do with anything in the bar, but the fact remains. I may be able to help him calm his nerves some. Or like this man," she says as she points towards my foot doodle. Toffee looked down at the paper. Now, Toffee seems really bright to me, and always has, but how quickly she was able to put this together was scary to even me. Or maybe I'm just being paranoid. She looks across the street at Dita Bella, and then back at my drawing, and then up at my face. I no longer think I'm being paranoid. I know that there are many men out there that would seize this opportunity. They would say something suave like, "Madam, I make sure to be here every other Wednesday like clockwork and right in time for your pedicure because I worship your feet and the soul I feel you must have because of this amazing establishment you have created." Yes, this is what I would have said. Instead, I instantly and without any thought at all cover my sketch, as if I've drawn something obscene. She catches herself quickly. "I'm sorry." Toffee apologizes. "I didn't mean to intrude." I really like this woman. She's smart and empathetic. I can't help it. I have to chance it. Mustering up all the cool I can, I smile, my most flirtatious smile, and I move my hand away for her to see my drawing. She looks, and then, yes, she gives me a little something, a very subtle smile of, well, what some might consider acknowledgement. This is going really well. She then returns to her conversation with the waitress. "It's okay. Let me show you where they go," I hear Toffee say as they walk back inside the bar. I have an idea. A way to be sure if she's interested. I will stand across the street and see if she returns to look at my sketch. It's raining now, and if she catches me watching her here in the rain, I might appear, well, Manson-esque. The last thing I want to do is freak her out. I pay my tab and walk my dirty dishes to the bar. I don't see her, so I walk across the street and position myself behind a very wet weeping willow. Though cold, I am excited, and here she comes. She walks right to my favorite table. She looks down at the paper and frowns a bit. I smile, knowing that the sketch of her feet is in my pocket. I walk the rest of the way home with a spring in my step. I can feel the rainwater soaking my cap as I smile. This has been a great day in the land of the living. I think tonight might be a good time to begin cleaning out my mom's things. Thérèse Montcalm sings her rendition of Sweet Dreams through my speakers, and a glass of California Cabernet fills my glass. As I begin a task I have put off for weeks. You know how they say things get worse before they get better? I'm finding this very true as I make 4 piles of my wonderful mother's things. It's a mess. Keep, sell, donate, and trash. Now, she wasn't a hoarder by any means, so I can't complain, but it's hard to throw any of her things away, and I have no idea what to do with all the spiders. Mom collected spiders, not real ones, but pretty glass ones or wooden carved ones. Everyone knew she collected them, so they were easy gifts. Looking around now at all of them, it's a little weird, I think. Kind of creepy, even. As I do this, my mind is filled with Toffee. What should my next move be? She could have a boyfriend or a girlfriend. She could be married for all I know. Let's say she's not. Let's say she's free as a bird and just waiting for a handsome gentleman like myself to swoop her off her lovely feet. Do I tell her that I'm a lover of feet? Do I take that chance? I could lose her forever, or I might actually find someone perfect for me. These thoughts are a welcome distraction as I go through Mom's things. I open a box labeled Davin's Personal Things. Keep out. Big 3 exclamation points follow it. I smile and open the box. Its contents are also wrapped in tissue paper. There's a card inside. It reads, "My dearest Davin, enclosed are a few of your personal items I found throughout the years, mostly from when you were in college. Don't be embarrassed. I love you, Mom. P.S. I liked Juliet too." I tore the tissue paper away from the contents. An old Playboy. I remember this. I had actually bought it for the Al Gore article. A pot pipe, video game, some old love letters, and at the bottom, Juliet's sweater. I hold it up to my nose and inhale deeply, though subtle, and possibly only in my own mind. Juliet's smell is still there. My mom was so cool. The thoughts of what needs to be done for Mom still stomp around in my mind, and the alarms are still in my phone. 6 p.m., liquid morphine. An inorganic voice comes from the cell phone in my pocket. I don't know why I have left them for so long. I suppose I'm just not ready to stop needing to be reminded of her yet, as if I could somehow forget her. We were about as close as mother and son can get. She was attentive and funny. We played together and talked about everything. She was my teacher, and even as an adult, we were friends. When she got sick, I stopped my life and attended to her as I know she would have done for me. It was my last year of graduate school, and it made her feel awful, but she knew me better than anyone on the planet. She knew I would not take no for an answer. Eventually, she stopped apologizing for being sick, and we laughed our way through cancer together. Laughter was our way of handling stress, and let me tell you, my mom was funny. Ours was the only stall in the chemo room that the nurses would fight over. If she wasn't making them laugh, she was mentoring. She never stopped mentoring. In the end, it was just me and her. It was extremely intimate and intense. It took all the strength I had to let her go, and it took all the strength she had to stay as long as she did. Until the last few days of her life, I truly didn't believe she would die. Like an awful joke that had become a nightmare, and the nightmare had become a very surreal reality. In the end, she left this world peacefully and quietly in her sleep as I watched. All of a sudden she was gone, and I was alone. I felt more alone in that moment than I ever had before or since. Memories of her funeral fill my daydreams. Heavy blood-red drapes shrouded me as I sat in the family room. Peeking out, all I could see were rows and rows of heads. Her funeral was a cavalcade of teachers she worked with, students, ex-students, and friends. They read from great literary works and quoted my mother right and left. They said things like, "I have no idea where I would be today if I had not met Bryn Wespin," or "Professor Wispin brought beauty to all that knew her," each of them mentioning me by name in some shape or form. Apparently, she spoke of me often. My mother had also pre-planned her funeral arrangements. There wasn't much for me to do after she died. She had even addressed the invitations and wrote out her own headstone. I still have no idea what she had written on it or what to expect. She said there would be a few surprises to come. After everyone had a chance to speak and the podium was empty, I took the seemingly endless walk to the black microphone. The bittersweet smell of many different types of flowers coming together at once filled the air. The smell of a funeral. My mother's simple yet elegant wooden casket behind me. I began speaking to all of these familiar strangers. "Good afternoon. My name is David, and Bryn was my mother." The room filled with whispers and then went deathly silent. I stuttered while fighting the frog planted firmly in my throat. "I want to begin by thanking you for coming. I know my mother would have appreciated it. While my mother was sick, we talked a lot. When I was growing up, we talked a lot. There were many of you that I know, but I don't know your faces. She spoke of her students, friends, and faculty members on a daily basis. She deeply loved and cared for all of you. She had many goals in life, but her main objective was to affect the people she touched in positive ways. More whispers came from the pews. By the turnout here and all the lovely things that were said about her today, I think she succeeded. She was the best mother and father any child could have. She was my friend and confidant. I was very fortunate, and I'm truly going to miss her every day of my life, for the rest of my life. Thank you. Sniffles and whispers filled the cavity of the church. After the service, I stood by the front door and shook hands and exchanged hugs with everyone. It took over an hour. Now I've been to many funerals in my life, but never had I seen one that seemed so deeply to affect so many people. She seemed to have truly become the mentor, teacher, friend, and human she wanted to become. She loved her job and found her passion. She always told me, "Do what you love, and you'll never work a day in your life." I never remember hearing her lament about having to go to work. My mother achieved something most only dream about. My mother had a happy life, and in living that life, she showed others it was possible. She absolutely loved literature, and she was excited about it. She wanted to excite others and, of course, her son. She read to me every day and encouraged me to write. She used to tell others that teaching was her job and educating me was her life. She took me to museums and constantly taught me about everything. She called me her magnum opus. No pressure, though, right? I tried really hard to be the best son and man I could be. She taught life lessons by example. The most upset she ever was with me was when I left graduate school to take care of her. Ironically, I do believe it was also what made her the proudest of me. When I came through the door with bags in hand, she held me for a long time and then looked me in the eyes as if she was seeing me for the first time. She shook her head slowly from side to side and said, "You're quite an evolved man, aren't you, my son, my magnum opus?" Now, don't get me wrong. I wasn't a mama's boy by any means, and I wouldn't have spent my life in her basement playing video games or anything. She believed in raising a whole human. I was encouraged to have friends and date, and I did. The most important thing you can give your children is roots and wings. She would say when I began to slowly venture from under her apron strings and out into the world, "I will follow in her footsteps and teach English at the college level. But first things first. First, I must finish cleaning out the house and change it from hers and mine to just mine. Then I will prepare to return to college, but somewhere in the middle of all this, I want to meet and get to know Toffee. Tonight is trivia night at Toffee Lover. Though I've never played before, I'm planning to step out of my box and give it a go. I usually just sit and listen as Toffee calls out the questions while whispering the answers into my coffee. With 4 piles in front of me, I suddenly feel a deep desire to bolt from my home, run screaming from the continuous loss. I just don't want to be here right now. Funny how this feeling always arises around the time I have a big pile enough in the trash section to begin bagging. I just can't throw her things away. Not yet. A shower will help. I stand from amongst her things and walk to the bathroom to prepare for a night of much-needed distraction. Showered, shaved, and wearing my best casual wear, I walk a tree-lined street towards the bar. It's almost dusk and overcast. No rain, which is a welcome change for me, and as I walk the streets of my city, I remember where I am off to, and I feel a flutter of excitement as I see her bar ahead of me. Making my way through the crowds of folks in the bar, I see her. She has her hair tied back. A black blouse hangs off her shoulders delicately, and a black calf-length pencil skirt with an apron over it that reads Toffee Lover in large cream-colored fancy writing. Mary Jane-style shoes cover her feet with cream-colored ankle socks. I sit down next to the other contestants at the trivia section at the bar, and I fill out my name on the card. I've listened to the game many, many times, and I'm prepared. I can be very competitive, and here I am. So as long as the buzzer likes me, this should be easy. I look up from filling out my card, and Toffee is in front of me. She pulls a goldfish bowl from beneath the counter. Welcome to trivia night here at Toffee Lover. Toffee welcomes her contestants. Thank you all for coming. I see we have some new faces here at the bar. Welcome. She smiles at me. We will be giving away 3 prizes this evening. A Visa gift card worth $35 is first place, $25 for second, and $15 for third. There will be no technological help of any sort allowed. Other than that, you each have a buzzer, and please wait till I call upon you before you answer. Are you ready? The crowd around me claps in heavy anticipation, and Toffee pulls a folded piece of paper from the bowl. Who wrote, in my opinion, the most important book ever written? Who wrote The Giving Tree? I hit my buzzer. Dave? She got my name wrong. Common mistake. Shel Silverstein, I answer. Good. She keeps firing questions, and I keep bringing in and answering. After 10 questions or so, the others stop trying, her eyes directed to her bowl between us. This is the first time I can completely examine her face. Ringlets fall from that loose ponytail, and she occasionally tucks them back amongst the others. She has long, slender fingers. I thought her eyes were brown, but on closer inspection, they're hazel, a light brown with a different shade of green running through them. I could look into those eyes for a very, very long time. There are occasional words of teasing from my fellow trivia contestants as the game goes on. A woman seated next to me yells out, "Bully!" but in a nice way. Others are coming from around the bar now to see the spectacle I'm quickly becoming. Toffee stares at me in a challenging sort of way as she reaches without looking under the bar and pulls out another bowl labeled Trivia Night Round 2. She continues asking, and I continue answering until the second bowl is about empty. She reaches in for the last folded paper. Last one, Dave. Everyone is standing around me now. I can feel the warmth from all the bodies in their anticipation as they wait. Some hold their breath. The bar is silent in anticipation. What is the capital of Syria, Dave? Toffee asks. Damascus, I answered without thinking about it. Yes! She responds with great enthusiasm. Everyone behind me whooping and hollering as they return to their seats. Wow, Toffee whispers as she leans towards me. That was quite a display, Dave. Well, thank you, I answer back humbly, but do not correct her for saying my name wrong. Are you a super genius or what? Toffee inquires. Just a good memory, I think. My mother was an educator, and well, She never stopped teaching me." "Was?" Toffee asked, with a sweet, empathetic look in her eyes. "Yes. I lost her recently, so, well, it's been tough and all. But I'm out and about now, trying to feel normal again. I've listened to your trivia game quite a bit, and I thought it might be fun, so—" "Fun?" she chuckles. "It was more of a slaughter, I think. You must have had an amazing mother, Dave. You're a lucky guy, and I've seen you here before. I apologize for not saying hi before tonight. I try and make it a habit to get to know all of my regulars." This is going so well, I thought to myself. I'm amazed it took so long to try and get to know this woman, and she actually seems interested, intrigued even. I hold my breath a bit, and then I asked her, "Will you have dinner with me, Toffee?" Without pausing to think, she responds, "Yes," as if she'd been waiting for the invitation. "Tomorrow night at 6:30, I ask her. She pauses for a moment and then, "Okay, yes, tomorrow at 6:30. Can we meet here?" she asks me. "Oh, I'll be here." She ponders for a moment and then smiles a sweet smile. "What about tonight? Are you busy tonight?" "Oh, that was forward of me, wasn't it? I'm sorry." She's nervous. I was making her nervous. How can this be? I must say I feel as though I'm coming across well and kinda cool even. She's still waiting for me to rescue her from this awkward moment she's placed herself in. Good God, if only she knew how long it's taken me to even build up the courage to say anything to her. "Tonight would be perfect for me, Toffee. How about a walk around our city?" When I asked her this, her whole face lit up. "Give me 10 minutes to change, and we'll get out of here." With that, she spun around and pushes against a wooden door with a circular window that leads to the kitchen. The door continues to wave slightly before coming to rest again. On the door below the window is a quote written in the same cream-colored fancy writing found throughout the bar. It read, "From morning till night, sounds drift from the kitchen, most of them familiar and comforting. On days when warmth is the most important need of the human heart, the kitchen is the place you can find it. It dries the wet sock. It cools the hot little brain." A quote from E.B. White. I walked to the men's room to collect myself. I don't think I breathed much during our conversation. I'm feeling a little lightheaded. I walk through the bar and push open the wooden door labeled "Gentlemen." I proceed to the sink. I wash my face and reach for a towel. I can hear voices. Women's voices. Toffee's voice, and at least 2 others. "Oh my God!" Toffee yells quietly. "Did you see any of that? Dude, he answered them all, both bowls, and I swear without pause, he's brilliant and hot. You know me and my passion for brains. He asked me out to dinner." "The foot guy?" a different voice asks. Foot guy? What the hell does that mean, I wondered. I felt a little nervous all of a sudden. "Yes, the brilliant, hot, and charming foot guy," Toffee responds. Brilliant, hot, and charming. How the hell am I going to live up to all of this, I wondered. I leaned into the vent a little more and heard yet another voice. "What foot guy? What the hell are you chicks going on about?" asked the other voice. "The quiet guy. The one who's always out there on the patio. Pilar used to call him the thinker before the night I caught him sketching a foot. There was an anklet in his drawing. I only saw it for a second, and I know this is presumptuous of me, but I swear it was my foot, my anklet. Well, after he left, I went back to the table, but he had ripped the drawing out. He's cute and all, but oh my God, he's also super smart. I almost leaped over the bar and tackled him when he asked me out. All I could think was, "Talk nerdy to me, baby." They all laughed. I was trying to be cool, but after he asked me out for tomorrow, I was like, "What about tonight?" I can't believe I did that. What must he think of me? "I think you are amazing," I whisper to myself and then look into the mirror. Hot? Brilliant? Charming, for God's sake? Really? I comb my hands through my hair and take a moment to try and find this guy they're all so excited about in the mirror. With no more understandable conversation coming from the glorious vent, I walk outside and wait for her. Jesus Christ, I'm shaking a little. Pull yourself together, man. I can see her inside now, and she is looking around for me. She took her hair down, and it's beautiful. Long, almost black, wavy curls cascade to the middle of her back. She's traded her skirt for some dark jeans and a long-sleeved black shirt with a V-neck. Hoping for sandals, I look down at her feet, and I'm a little sad to see brown boots with a slight heel. She sees me and smiles while holding her index finger up in the 1-minute motion. She grabs a hat from the hat rack in the corner and joins me. I watch her as she skips out the door while her friends tease her. "Don't do anything I wouldn't do," I hear a waitress say as Toffee swings the door open. And then she's with me. "Are you sure this is okay? Do you have to get up early or anything? What time is it anyway?" she asks while reaching for her cell phone to check the time. She's still nervous. "This is great. I don't have to get up early, and I could care less what time it is." She looks up at me, and I open the crook of my arm. She slips her hand through, and we begin walking and talking. We talk about everything while walking the tree-lined streets of our neighborhood. She's extremely bright and funny. After 20 minutes or so, she begins to relax, and we are finding similar interests and desires in life. I tell her about my mother and her death. I tell her about leaving graduate school, and we discuss film, wine, music, politics, philosophy, etc., etc. I had no idea how much I needed to talk and how much I needed to listen to another evolved soul talk about life and the world. As I stand watching her speak philosophy under a streetlight, the night begins to mist. Small droplets of rain hang in the air and dance all around her. In slow motion, they light on her hair and body while reflecting small pieces of moonlight and then fade into her. I removed my coat and gently draped it around her shoulders. I lean against the light pole behind me and take her all in. "What?" she asks softly. I run my hands over the roughness of my beard and think for a moment. Every once in a while, things in life that you don't believe can possibly be anything like you imagine them to be turn out to be better than you hoped. I'm just taking a moment to acknowledge this so I can remember every detail. You and the mist in your hair. It's worth savoring, I say to her. "Wow," Toffee responds in a low, soft voice as she moves one leg towards me, narrowing the 5-foot gap between us. "You're quite the charmer, mister." She steps another foot closer, 4 feet apart. "Let me ask you a question." 3 feet apart. "Are you for real?" 2 feet apart. "Because I really want you to be." She whispers into my chest and then looks up at me. Cupping her face in my hands, I lean in and kiss her. She smells like chamomile tea and coffee and tastes like vanilla. All I could say at that moment is that she feels so right, very right. Her lips are soft and her mouth is warm. We both begin to breathe heavily as our hearts race together. She begins to pull away slowly, her eyes half open, flutter slightly, and she stretches her neck back to look me in the eyes. Her mouth is a mere inch from mine. I can still smell her and taste the vanilla from her lips. "Wow," she whispers while keeping her neck still arched back. "Wow is right," I whisper back before leaning in to kiss her again. The chemistry between us feels amazing. It makes me feel more alive than I have in a very long time, possibly more than I ever have in my life. Better slow this down, especially since we're standing right in front of my house. I don't want her to think I planned this. If I did, it was subconscious. I mean, shit. I'll just go with it. "Want to come in for some coffee?" I ask while looking toward my home. Toffee turns toward my house and then back at me while slightly raising an eyebrow. "Not coffee." "Wine?" Toffee asked. "Wine it is for the lady," I responded. Toffee steps through the threshold and begins looking around. "Very nice, Dave." She steps over to the photos Mom had around the living room. "Your mom was beautiful. Look at her," she remarks while looking at an old picture of my mom with a group of her friends from college. "She looks like a little hippie." "She looks familiar. Did you ever bring her into the bar?" Toffee asked me. Maybe. I'm sure she must have gone in there at some point." "Red or white?" I ask while holding up 2 bottles for her to choose from. "That one. Yum," she responds, and I begin to uncork the red Cabernet she chose. "So your bar?" I ask. "Yes, my bar?" "It's pretty cool. Where'd you come up with all the cool ideas? The books and the butcher paper with the pencils. You've created something quite amazing there," I said as I handed her the wine. She sips it and swishes it around on her palate a little bit. "Very nice. My bar, yes. Well, I always say that I stood on the shoulders of many, many giants. I had some pretty cool teachers in college, and not to mention some amazing friends that helped me, and, of course, all the food is from my grandmother's recipes. I wanted to do something different that people could feel at home with, that it could be a place for a date or a meeting. I wanted to be part of this community that I've come to love so much. I had this teacher, an English teacher as a matter of fact, that gave me an interesting avenue of inspiration. She had this way of reading and she wanted us to adopt it. As you read a book, you keep a pencil and make comments throughout the book, like the books at the bar. She thought you could tell a ton about a person based on the way they responded to literature. She thought everyone should have a favorite book and that everyone should at least take the time to do this with their favorite. Then go back every 10 years or so and do it again, but in different colors. It can show you a lot about yourself too, and how your views of life and situations change with age. She had us choose a favorite, fill it with all our own comments, and then reread it at the end of the semester while making new comments. It became a ritual that her classes would not only do this, but many of us would give her the books as a gift at the end of the semester. I thought it was a lovely tradition. God, I wonder what she did with all those books. She kept her favorites in the classroom and we could read through them anytime we wanted. There were the only books that we were not supposed to write in, of course. I began picking them up and reading them all the time. They were full of little bits of insight, comments like, "Never forget the value of snuggling," or, "Sometimes we need reminding that we are all artists." To watch, I'm sure you've seen all that in the bar. Toffee said. "Speaking of books," I began, "my mom has boxes and boxes of used books she collected. her favorites are worn and tattered like the ones on your bookshelves, I'd be more than happy to let you go through them and take what you like." "Really? Oh, I'd love that," she responded with a smile. "Old, tattered favorites of an English professor. Sounds like heaven." "What college did you attend?" I asked Toffee. "Oh, Washington, of course." "My mom taught there." "What was your teacher's name?" "Your mom taught there? That's why she looks so familiar. No, it wasn't her, though. My teacher was too young. You might know her, though. Last name was Ute, but we all called her the Commander." There were so many. The last name sounds familiar, but I'm sure I'd remember the Commander. So, maybe not. Toffee moved towards some of the pictures of me on the wall at different stages of my life. Me sleeping as a baby, black and white close-ups of my mother holding my tiny baby feet and hands, one of me as an infant, and my mother's profile smiling down at me. Toffee ever so lightly touches them and traces my mother's face with her finger. There is something so beautiful about the way a loving mother looks at her baby. Dave, she adored you. You were so lucky to have a mom like this. My mom was a rebel without a clue. If not for my grandparents and great teachers and friends, God knows where I would have ended up. What about your dad?" she asked. He was a physics professor at Duke and much older than my mom. Apparently it was fairly scandalous, too. She met him at a conference and they got to know each other, if you know what I mean. Turned out he was married. She made sure to get all the necessary information from me and all, but he died when I was like 4, and I didn't ever get to know him or anything. Her face dropped a little, and she reached out and rubbed my arm softly with a look of understanding on her face. "So what's with all the spiders? I mean, they're super cool," she asked while picking up a glass one with blue crystals on its back. My mom loved spiders. Just a thing with her. People sent them from their vacations or for Christmas gifts. I don't know what to do with them. "I don't think you should do anything with them. Leave them right where they are, Dave. That's what I would do. They're really cool." Kind of creepy though, right?" "Not at all. Your house is so pretty and inviting. The spiders just say there's more to this house than meets the eye. Without 'em, it would still be lovely, but it would be ordinary. E.B. White would leave them." I chuckled a bit. "Yes, I suppose E.B. White would leave them," I say as I move toward her. I put my arm around her waist and rested my chin on top of her head. I could feel her back against my chest. She's warm and soft. She caresses my hands with hers and melds back into me. We stand for a few minutes in silence, and she just lets me hold her. It felt so nice. She turns slowly in my arms and we kiss again. Our bodies respond to one another instantly. This old yet wonderful familiar feeling of passion begins to take over as I try to keep it at bay. I want to take things slow with her, and yet everything in my body just wants to pick her up and take her to my bedroom. I want to love every inch of her body, from the top of her chamomile-scented hair to the tips of her exquisite toes. I want to take this slowly, Toffee, but my body... Yes, my body is trying to take this into her own hands as well. Whew! She exasperates and then waves her hand in front of her face to cool it off. Her cheeks are a lovely, inviting shade of pink. "Let's talk," she says while flopping onto the couch and shaking her head from side to side a little. We sat and talked till the sun came up, laughing and getting to know one another. She finally fell asleep around 5:30 a.m., so I covered her with a blanket and took her shoes off for her. It's only polite, right? I held her beautiful feet in my hand. I took care not to tickle her. I caress her foot and then hold them in my hands for a brief time to warm them. I hope this will be the first of many times I will do this. I lie down on the couch across from her and drift off to sleep while watching her dream. I woke to the sounds of someone trying to be quiet around me. "Good morning, Toffee," I say while yawning. "Good afternoon, Dave. I'm sorry I woke you. I have to get to the bar, but if you're still free for dinner—" "I am most definitely still up for dinner, my dear," I say as I kiss her forehead. "I'll drive you." No, it's like 3 blocks and I need the wake-up walk." "Well, before you run out of here, I have a question for you. Is Toffee your real name or—" "Oh, no, it's Melody. Melody Van Vow," she says as she holds out her hand to shake mine. "My grandma made toffee. She was famous for it. Same recipe I make at the Lover. Whenever she made it, she would come and get me to help her. She would say that she needed my help, that I had to be there, that it simply could not be done without me. The biggest batches were always made when I was having the most drama going on in my life. We'd make toffee and talk and laugh and cry. Now the very smell of toffee calms me and without sounding too dramatic, brings peace to my very soul. My grandma started calling me Toffee when I was little and it stuck. You're just like my toffee, she would say, sweet and salty and surrounded by nuts. She and her toffee were like the glue that kept me from falling apart. She's gone from this world, but her essence pulses through my bar like a heartbeat. She says this, and small pools of water begin to fill under her hazel eyes, making the green in them glow. I watch her as one drop finally spills over and tracks its way down her cheek. I reach out and pull her into me for a moment. I rest my chin on her head and quietly say, "Since we are on the topic of names and have technically slept together now," I look down and give her a wink. "I thought I should mention that my name is not Dave. It's Davin. Davin Movell." At first, she had this apologetic look on her face and then looks down in thought. "Davin? Where do I know that name from?" She looks at her cell phone. "Crap. I have to go. We shall continue this later, Davin. I like that better anyway. It's more you. It's gentle and unique. I'll see you tonight at 6:30, Davin." With that said, she rushes out my door and I am alone. I begin collecting our wine glasses and taking them to the sink. The house back in pre-company order with the exception of a pillow I gave her to sleep on. I lied in her place and put my face against her smell. Toffee was really here. Once she was with me, all my nerves relaxed. I stopped thinking about liquid morphine and loss. When she was in my home, it felt like my home. I could very easily fall in love with this woman, and I want to. I fell asleep to the smell of toffee and woke to my cell phone vibrating in the corner of the kitchen. I rub my eyes and follow the vibration. I don't recognize the number. I cleared my throat. "Hello?" "Davin?" A woman's voice responds. "Yes, speaking." "Hi, Davin. I'm not sure if you remember me or not, but this is Juliet." "Juliet?" "Juliet Ute. I was a friend of your mother's and I watched you a handful of times when you were a child. We read Treasure Island together on your mom's couch once. I was one of your mother's students and then a friend and then a coworker. I taught English at Washington with Bren." "I remember you, Juliet. It's been a long time. How are you?" "I think the question is, how are you, Davin? How are you holding up?" "I'm good. It's been hard and well, you know." but I'm okay. Actually, today I'm better than I've been in a while. Anyway, I had no idea you went to work with my mother. I remember you vividly. How are you?" "I'm good," Juliet responded. "I was wondering if you might have some time to meet with me. I have a package for you from your mother. She asked me to give it to you after her passing. There's also some things I need to explain to you, some things your mother wanted you to understand. I feel very much honored that she chose me to bring this package to you, David. What's your schedule like this week?" "My schedule? Well, since I'm not back in school yet, I'm pretty open. The only thing I have scheduled is a dinner for tonight around 6:30. "Great. Well, I'm in your neck of the woods now, and it's only 1:45. I could stop by if that's okay." Sure. Now's fine. I'm home." "See you in a few then." Juliet is on her way to my home with a package from my dead mother, and I have a real date with Toffee tonight. This will be an interesting day for sure. I began straightening pillows, and after 15 minutes or so, I got a shave and a haircut knock at my front door. I combed through my hair with my hand and opened the door. In an instant, I'm taken back to that evening in my mind. The girl that read to me was now the woman standing in my threshold. She had traded in her youthful long raven-colored hair for a more adult shoulder-length bob, a man's black fedora-style hat with a blue ribbon, combat boots with matching blue ribbon laces, black leggings under an almost too short skirt, and a dainty black sweater. My memory had concocted a Juliet, but didn't have her exactly. Now that she's in front of me, the fragmented details begin coming together, and though she looks slightly tired from age lines around her eyes, she looks the same. She's still quite lovely. "Well, hello there, the famous David." She smiles at me while reaching up for a hug with one arm and cradling a large red manila envelope with the other. "You're so tall now." "Good afternoon, Commander," I responded back while returning her hug. "Commander? I see you have somehow become acquainted with my nickname. I assure you the name has much more to do with the boots I wear than with my personality." "Yes. Kind of an interesting story," I started. "I recently met an old student of yours, Melody Van Vow." "Melody." She ponders for a moment, and then a smile grows across her milky-skinned face. "You mean Toffee Van Vow? Yes, I know her well, and her amazing establishment. She's quite a lady, and very attractive, yes?" "Yes, she is on both accounts. I'm a frequent Toffee Lover customer, and as you so eloquently put it, her amazing establishment was intriguing to me. And then I saw her, and I wanted to, well, get to know the woman behind the bar, so to speak." "Exactly." I remember Toffee and how excited she was about literature, how excited she was to be in college. I remember her being very bright. Walking through her business now, I can see all the ways she was inspired by my class. It feels so good to think I was a part of some of her creation, but I must tell you, I learned how to teach from Bren. The many ways Bren inspired me inspired Toffee, and many others like her. Your mother had a passion for moving people, and she did it so well." "We've only had one date," I said to her, "and it wasn't even really a date, just a long walk and an even longer talk, but it just feels really, right?" "Yes, really right. Oh, your mother's beautiful web of influence spins on even without her." Juliet began to tear up while picking up and holding the same glass spider with the blue crystals on the back that Toffee had inspected as well. You said my mother's web of influence. I asked Juliet. Yes, it's from Tolstoy. He said, the means to gain happiness is to throw out from oneself like a spider in all directions an adhesive web of love, and to catch it in all that comes. It was your mom's favorite quote, and it was almost a part of everything she did. That's why we gave her spiders. I gave her this one myself, and that brings me to why I'm here. She spoke of you often, David. I and most of the people she knew have come to know you through her. You have a vast support system should you ever need one. Your mother wasn't just a teacher. She was a friend and a mentor. She loved deeply and gave of herself freely, except for when it came to you. She made sure you always got the best of her. Everything took a back seat to you. She wanted you to be happy and healthy. Her only regret was never finding the right man to father you. Because of that, she devoted as much of her to you as she could, and David, you must know, she absolutely adored you and everything about you. There are some things she wanted me to explain to you. She wanted to tell you all of this herself after you were done with school. Then she got sick, and she told me the words just wouldn't come to her. She thought I'd be a good person to explain some important information to you. I'm going to do the best I can. Please sit down and get comfortable. We sat across from one another. She cleared her throat and began. First of all, there was your biological father. Dr. Mavell was not just a chance encounter like she told you. You have to know that your mom planned things better than to just have a brief affair and accidentally create you. That wasn't her style, and well, this part, it's very important. It was very important to Bren that you understand why she was not completely honest with you about your dad. She felt your conception lacked romance and passion, David. This bothered her, and she thought it better to be thought of as a moment of weakness, a moment of passion. Your mother believed that the human race bonds through vulnerability, that it is our imperfections that are truly the glue which keeps the human race together. It was more than okay with her for you to see her as imperfect. She thought it was better for you to see yourself as a man conceived of a sudden passion and not a well-thought-out plan. Okay, this was getting weird for me. I'm confused. Hold on a second. Are you telling me that my mother planned to have a child out of wedlock with a married man? I asked her. Well, yes and no. So she wanted a child. She wanted you so badly, and though she had her fair share of suitors, your mother was quite lovely, but she never met anyone she felt good enough to be her child's father. They were all lacking something. Since she couldn't find an available man with all the qualities she deemed fit for reproduction, she went looking for a donor. Your father had taught one of the classes she took when she was in college. He was a very well-respected man, brilliant and incredibly decent. A good man with great genes. She went to see him and his lovely wife of 40 years, I might add. They had 3 children of their own who were all grown at that time, and she asked them for a favor. She also asked them to think about the whole thing for a few weeks before giving her their decision. They got to know your mom quite well, and though you weren't conceived in a moment of great sexual passion, you were born of a woman
with enough passion to fill a football stadium. You need to know that you also have a half-sister and 2 brothers that would love to meet you. They and their mother were at Bryn's funeral. They're quite amazing people, too. I will email you their contact information tonight. Your father and his wife were even in the room when you were born. That brings me to this, she said with enthusiasm and pulls out the contents of her red vanilla envelope. This, your mother wanted me to tell you, will answer any questions you might still have about her and who you are. She hands me a book entitled My Most Important Strand, a collection of short stories and poetry written by a mother completely in love with her son, by Dr. Bryn Wispin. Underneath the title and her name is Tolstoy's spider web quote. The cover is an illustration of a black spider's web and a dainty-looking spider with blue crystals across its back. I open the book and read the dedication. For David, and below it reads, A man looks back on his life and wants to be remembered for the shelter and security he has given to those he loves, and a woman wants to be remembered for the web of influence she spends a lifetime weaving. Dr. Bryn Wispin. I flip the page to the table of contents and read through the names of the works. It began with Why I Want to Be a Mother, Choosing the Right Father, Hoping I'm Pregnant. I felt life within me today, Choosing a Name, Holding David. He laughed today. Learning to walk means learning one can walk away. Juliet, David's first love and a little black sweater. My little man and his foot fetish. Sometimes we need reminding that we are all artists. Preschool and the theft of my baby. Bullies and the value of snuggling. Reading and explaining the most important book ever written to a 5-year-old. Roots and Wings. His first date and the loneliest evening of my life. Junior high and the theft of my child. Puberty sucks. College and the theft of my soul. How to tell someone you love that you are leaving them. I sent a boy to college and an evolved man came home. And the last one, number 22, my magnum opus. Struck with emotion, I look up at Juliet to find her face trailing with tears. She clears her throat and continues. It is by far the most beautiful body of work I have ever read, David. I often share these stories with students, and then there's even a running joke, for lack of a better word, about you. Your mother wanted to raise an evolved man. For Bryn, that meant a man that would be brilliant and emotionally balanced, someone who's capable of seeing the world from many perspectives, someone who's capable of loving and being loved, someone who would make the world a better place simply because they are in it. And David, she felt she had succeeded with you. All the women who read this collection your mother wrote would come away wishing they could meet a man like you must be. She shared the stories with various people throughout the years. Many of those people were educators, and they shared them with their students. I got to help her put the body of work together, and I illustrated the cover. These words have touched so many already. Several publishing houses want to publish it, but your mom wanted you to read it first and decide if you want to share these intimate stories with the world. I flip through the pages and find my mother's handwriting throughout the book in different colors.
She had made comments just for me throughout the copy of the book. She had written a legend for me. Blue equals notations made right after I finished the book. Red, notations after I got sick. Green was for notations she made after she knew she wouldn't survive cancer. Orange notations she made when I came home to care for her. She put a little thing at the end here, said, "Thank you for doing that. Now get back to school. The world is in desperate need for an evolved man like you." I smile at the last line, and now I am unable to control the emotion that fills me. I feel Juliet's arms around me, and she is crying. I'm crying. Good God, this is difficult. Still holding the red envelope, she pulls another single sheet of paper from inside and looks at it for a moment before handing it to me. "This is what your mother designed for her headstone. It was very important to her, and she allowed me the privilege of helping her design it. The 8 by 10 piece of paper is an exact copy of the front cover of the book. The words from my mother's headstone rise above the intricate spider in an almost 3D-looking format. A lovely feminine-looking spider with raised blue crystals on her back seems to almost look at you up from the web. It said Dr. Bren Westman, January 1st, 1954 to October 4th, 2012. Below that, a man looks back on his life and wants to be remembered for the shelter and security he has given to those he loves. And a woman wants to be remembered for the web of influence she spends a lifetime weaving. Dr. Bryn Wispin. Just below that, it says, "May my web continue to spin on without me, even after no one remembers my name." It's beautiful, Juliet. You and my mom must have been really close. Thank you for being there for her. I say through the tears I have given up trying to control. The spider we ended up agreeing on for the book and her headstone is a representation of a wolf spider. One morning years ago, when I was still an adjunct, your mom came into the English department. She rushed to her computer and was studying something intensely. I walked up behind her to see what she was looking at. The words she had typed into the search engine were spiders with babies on their back. On the monitor was a huge wolf spider. In the picture, the spider's eyes reflected the light from the flash of the camera. All over her back were tiny specks of light coming from the 100 or so infants on her back. David, she was fascinated. Your mother said that one of these big girls had found her way into her kitchen. The babies made the spider look so big it startled her. After close inspection, she realized the whole body was an arachnid, and it was alive. "They don't make webs," your mother said, amazed. "They're hunters, and because there's no safe place anywhere to hold a nest, she has to carry them around to keep them safe." When I gave her the glass spider with the blue crystals, it was very symbolic. She was more of a mother to me than a friend. Your mother helped me become the woman I am today, and I am very proud of who I am. That, in and of itself, is quite a rare thing. I'm old enough now to realize this. After I got my professorship at Washington, I gave your mom the glass spider with a card. She kept the card on her desk at work for years. This is the card. Juliet handed it to me. It was a wet-looking web on the front. Droplets of water cling to the strands here and there. Inside it reads, "Bren, thank you for all you've done for me. You are a most amazing hybrid, forever spinning your lovely web, and yet still having a back strong enough to carry some of us around for a while until we are grown enough to thrive on our own. Thanks for the ride. Love, Dr. Juliet Ute." I got to spend a short
but very important period in my life on the safety of your mother's back, David. You got to grow up there. Lucky boy. Your mom carried many, and they, in turn, have learned to carry many. She was very special, and she will be greatly missed. You have my number now. I'm here should you ever need anything. Juliet hugs me once again and then stands to leave. I have something for you, too, I say while reaching for her little black sweater and then handing it to her. Ah, the famous little black sweater. My personal favorite story from her book. She holds it up by the shoulders in front of herself and then puts it to her face. She inhales and smiles. It smells like Bren. I will cherish this, David. I think I'll put it between my mattresses. Juliet winks at me and then is gone. I stood at the closed door for several minutes with my eyes closed, trying to absorb all that I had just taken in, and wondering if sometimes smells can be deceiving. Buzz, buzz, buzz. The tiny cell phone in my pocket vibrates and startles me. 4:45 p.m. Liquid morphine and Benadryl. A muffled, inorganic female robotic voice calls from my pocket. I pull it out, and I canceled all the alarms. Memories of dosing out pain medication are not the ones I want to jog anymore. I shower and change into clothes fit for a dinner with a lovely lady. Looking around my home, I realize that I'm still sleeping in a boy's room. Mom had the master, of course, and it's nice. A little feminine, maybe, but that can be changed. I can turn my bedroom into an office and maybe exchange the shag carpet for some wood flooring. For God's sake, there's still a poster of Angelina Jolie on the wall in my room right over my bed. My mom's room has a giant black and white poster of Bob Marley with the words, "Emancipate yourself from mental slavery. None but ourselves can free our mind," right over her bed. Now, am I a sleazebag for thinking I may need a manly room to ravish this woman in? I've been face deep in school for so long. There was no time for romance. I can't remember the rules. I look at a picture of my mother in the hallway. It's of her, when she was in college. She has her finger pointed at her friend Omar. Looks like a heated discussion is going on. Omar and my mother were friends for decades. He was at her funeral. I look closer. She was so pretty and always so full of life. I look at the background of the photo and there's a door behind her that reads, Dr. Charles Mavell, Physics. I lean in closer, and there's a man looking out of his door at the two arguing students. I can't believe I never noticed this before. He looks amused by the argument. He has a nice, gentle face. He's wearing jeans and a black blazer, salt and pepper hair and a beard. Very distinguished looking. Attractive for a man in his 60s and pretty familiar as well. I must have stood there for 20 minutes studying his face. I can see bits of myself in him. I look back at my mother. "What are the rules, Mom?" I ask her picture. I know what you'd say. Sometimes, my son, there are no rules. Just enjoy it. It's good advice. No chameleon, just me. Do I dare? I walk back into her room and pull the boxes from under the bed, her books. I open the first box and pick up the first book. This edition of Tender as the Night is dog-eared and bent. I open the cover, and there is a picture taped inside of a young woman. Below her name is the date, 1998, and a short thank you to my mother. It read, "Dearest Dr. Wispin, what can I say but thank you? You have made literature a huge part of my life. Funny,
since I really thought I had learned to read in the 2nd grade. I was wrong. Thank you for teaching me that being happy is a good thing and that it's possible." Then she put a quote. "He opened the gate to his amusing world. So long as they subscribed to it completely, their happiness was his preoccupation. Bit at the first flicker of doubt as to all its inconclusiveness, he evaporated before their eyes, leaving little communicable memory of what he had said or done." A quote by F. Scott Fitzgerald from Tender is the Night. Each page of the book was filled with notations in 2 colors. Black notations for when she started the class, and red for the last week or so. Black notations speckled the book here and there, but the red notations decorated nearly every page. The black notations all short and precise. "This is interesting," or a simple "sad," wherein the red notations was filled with life and imagery. 10 boxes filled to the brim with beat-up books her students had written in. When I got to the last box, it was filled with copies of The Giving Tree by Shel Silverstein. The words, "the most important book ever written," scribbled across each and every one in big black marker. Each one was given to my mother by a different student. There must have been 200 of them. My initial thought was to just hand the boxes to Toffee and let her sort through them, but now I see I will have to take much more effort on my part. I wouldn't feel right about leaving their names or photos in them. I'll have to go through each one. I shoved the boxes back under the bed and brush off tiny pieces of shag that have stuck to my pants. This carpet definitely has to go. Finally ready, I stopped to pick up some flowers from an outdoor florist near the Toffee Lover. The lady who owns the stand knows me well, and she knew my mom. I know I'm in for a bit of questioning. "A dozen long-stemmed red roses, please, Mrs. Lopez," I asked the sweet 60-something woman who is busy tending to her wares. "Mr. Davin, you, so nice to see you. I hope these are for a sweetheart?" she asks, peeking up through her bifocals. "They are indeed." I felt a strange twinge of excitement. They are for a sweetheart. A dozen red roses in hand, I walk through the bar, looking down at my phone, 6:25, right on time. Looking around, I see that I have been spotted already. Several employees are pointing in my direction. The words, "That's him," are not hard to lip read. I take a seat at the bar, and a young waitress approaches me. Are you Davin?" she asks. "I am." "Toffee wanted me to tell you that she's almost ready. She'll be out in about 10 or so. Can I get you anything while you wait?" "No, thank you." "All right, then," she said as she slowly turned to leave and gave me a good once-over. Sitting down by the books, I pick up a copy of The Giving Tree and open it. Familiar handwritten huge black letters on the outside cover say, "The most important book ever written." The inside cover has a handwritten quote. "There is a fine line between being a giving person and being a person people use." It was signed B. Wispin. My mother's web continues to spin around me. I knew I had a great mom, and I knew she was a great human, but I truly had no idea the extent of what she meant to people and how she affected their lives. Flipping through the book, I see that folks have decorated it with notations and quotes. Makes me wonder about her quote. Makes me wonder who made her feel used. I guess I'll never know. I am engrossed in the book and trying to pick out her notations against the others when I see out of the corner of my eye 2 gorgeous feet. They are covered with black straps that snake their way around her feet and end at the large yet elegant strap that encircles her slender ankle. Blood-red, perfectly manicured toes sit up against a 5-inch spiked heel. Her calves are bare. Her skin had that "I spent a little time in the sun" glow to it. The hem of her black dress is slightly above the knee and has a slit trailing up a firm, athletic thigh. The dress is form-fitted and hugs her slender waist. The neckline plunges to her breasts, exposing just enough cleavage to make any red-blooded male wish he had an item to drop. Blood-red full lips are a seemingly exact match to her nail polish. Ringlets of dark brown hair fall around her head, and Toffee's hazel eyes are staring into mine. "You look amazing," I say as I stand, her eyes following mine in a moment of complete chemistry. She reaches into me for a hug and whispers in my ear, "You're looking pretty amazing to me as well." Her warm breath sends chills through me. My nose pushes into her hair and she smells like spicy, ripe cherries. I realize that all the thoughts I had a minute ago are gone. My mind is filled with Toffee, and it feels good. No rules and no lizards. We sat in an elegant restaurant overlooking the water. The gentle sounds of its waves drown out the conversation around us. A full moon stands alone in the sky, and a lone candle flickers at our table. The waitress empties the last few drops from the Cabernet we've shared into overly tall wine glasses. "Are you tipsy, David?" Toffee asks, while slowly swirling her wine glass in her hand. "Slightly. You?" "Most definitely, and I'm grateful for it as well, since I have a sort of a confession to make. Nothing bad, I assure you. Just something I want to tell you." "You have my attention, as always, my lady," I said to her. I'm intrigued and a little nervous at this point. She begins to lean in closer to me, and I lean in automatically in response. "Do you remember?" She stops abruptly and looks away as if she is rethinking how to phrase her question. She is nervous about this. Should I be nervous about this? "Let me back up a minute." She begins again. "You came in one night when I had a discussion with a waitress that was crumpling some butcher paper, and they had doodles on them. Do you remember?" "I remember," I answer back and then go quiet. "Well, you drew a picture of a foot that night." She looks away, and a slight feeling of awkwardness fills the table. I feel the sudden need to save her from this moment of self-torture. I decided to cut her off and just be me. "That was not just a sketch of any foot, Toffee. It was a sketch of your foot. I love watching you get your toes done at Dita Bella. I love it so much. I make sure to be there every Wednesday evening just to view the process from afar. However, my dear, this is not a confession, but rather a question." "Yes, well, you see, there's more. I had noticed you in the bar many times. The always handsome, alone man observing quietly in the corner. The one with no wedding band. I kept waiting for some sign from you that you might be interested, but I didn't get anything more than an occasional glance. Then I saw the drawing in question here, and I hoped that maybe," her maybe still looming in the air as I interrupt, "I think we both know there was no maybe." She smiles a slow, sultry smile and tilts her head to one side. Something about the way she does this, it makes the man in me want to drag her back to the cave. She continued, "Well, then we had our walk, and even slept together. First of all, that's not like me. I just didn't want to leave you. I didn't want to leave you for some reason. That led to our brief morning discussion regarding names. I had to go to work, but the whole while I kept thinking and it kept gnawing at my memory. Your name, it's so unusual, though I could not place it at the moment. It all came back to me in the staff meeting I had to attend yesterday morning, a meeting I was only at in body. My mind was still very much with you. After a jolt of espresso, the memory of a discussion I had with some classmates and my favorite ever English professor from Washington jogged its way back into my mind. We were discussing men after class one afternoon and how they can be. Professor Ute spoke of the defense of your gender. Not all men are like that. Let me show you why we women can hold on to a little hope. In my humble opinion, it takes great mothers to create great men capable of being great partners. I know a great woman, and from what she told me about her son, he's one of the good ones. Then the commander took out this folder and withdrew a few short stories she had from her favorite English professor. Toffee mimed the removal of the paper from its envelope. She read us a handful of these amazing stories and some poetry. She told us about the author and all the guidance and love she had received from her. The guidance and love she received from Bryn Wispin. Every woman in the room seemed to have their own mommy or daddy issues, and we all drooled over the mere thought of having a devoted parent like your mother must have been. We also drooled over what kind of man this sort of woman would raise. Then one of us, not me, I assure you, piped up with the comment, "He's probably married to a man and in the middle of adopting a Chinese baby." We all laughed, and then the commander interrupted. "Nope, listen to this one." She read us her personal favorite from the collection. It was called My Little Man and His Foot Fetish. This story was beautiful and funny and so full of imagery. It stayed with me as well as your name stayed with me. I'm telling you this, David, because I want you to understand that not only am I attracted to you because of your looks and personality, but I am attracted to your soul. And I was before I ever even met you. This beautiful woman is glaring at me, and I am awestruck by this moment. The red-blooded man within me begins to take over. "Step aside, son, I'll take it from here," I hear him say in my mind. Without further ado and without taking my eyes off her, I politely, with as husky a voice as I can muster in my current state, I say, "Check, please," to the waitress passing through my peripheral vision. Toffee responds with another slow, coy smile and tilts her head to one side. "How do you do that?" I asked her. "What?" "Do you know what that look does to a man? That simple little smile tilt thing you wield so well?" I asked her. "Yes," she responded. The walk from the restaurant to the car would take a few minutes. From the restaurant, I could barely see the tail end of my car that was parked about 2 blocks away. I looked at Toffee and then down at her feet. Though super sexy, her shoes were not made for walking in very far. "I'll go get the car." I stutter slightly, since I know it would be very ungentlemanly of me to run for the car, and yet that is really what I want to do. "Wait." Toffee calls back and begins to take off her shoes. Dear God in heaven, she took off her shoes. "Race?" she asks, and then takes off running like a gazelle while ignoring all the ready, set, go rules. I trotted behind and watched this athletic barefoot woman run as the soles of her feet fly in front of me. It was poetry in motion. Truly, I don't remember much about the drive home. It was like one of those sexually frenzied scenes you see in a movie, the kind where the guy kicks in the front door because his hands are full of the woman he is about to pick up and lie on a bed, and I did. I carried her to the master bedroom. I didn't give a shit about anything on the wall or how feminine it might or might not have looked, and I'm positive she didn't either. The rest of the world was a million miles away. I laid her in the middle of my mom's bed. Her hair fanned out, and her hazel eyes glared into me. I ran my hand into the small of her back and pulled her into me. She breathes heavily into my mouth, and I can feel her heart pounding like mine. Then all of a sudden, things seemed to slow way down. We kissed and explored. We touched and connected with each other. Afterward, I went to the kitchen to get us some water and fruit. I sliced melon and cleaned strawberries. Gone about 15 minutes and I returned to a woman crying on my mom's bed. What the hell? Then I noticed she has the book my mother wrote in her hands. It's turned to a story in the back. It's beautiful, and there's so much more than you'd shared with us. I had no idea it was a book, Toffee said to me. Well, it's not yet, but it will be soon. Apparently there are a few publishers that want it. Your commander was here today and she brought me that book. My mom had asked her to bring it to me after she died. She also had a copy of a headstone she and my mother designed together. It's there on the nightstand, too, if you want to take a look. It's beautiful. I guess my mom and Ute were super close. She wanted me to read it and decide for myself if it should be published or not. I haven't even read it yet. She also shared some pretty amazing facts about my conception. You haven't read this yet? Toffee asked me, shocked. How do you know if you'll want it published or not? And what do you mean, facts about your conception? Are you serious? Do you know how many women would want to kill me and bury me in the desert if I didn't publish this thing? The way Juliet described her in this book, there's no way I could not allow it to be published. Plus, it's my mom. She was a great writer. All she wanted to do was show people how to be alive and how to be a positive part of the human race. This is her magnum opus. I must correct you there, sir, Toffee said. According to this book, you are her magnum opus. Here's another thing I noticed. The names of some of these stories, they seem awfully familiar. I noticed that myself, I said back to her. David, I didn't hear those stories. I remember the books I was reading and where I was when I saw the notations. Someone somewhere read or heard your mother's stories, and they were moved enough to remember the phrases. They copied her, and I copied them. These little things are what make my bar unique. Hell, they're responsible for the concept of my bar. They're also what drew you to me. It really is like a web, isn't it? What did she tell you about your conception? No, that's a long story that I'm trying to absorb myself. However, according to Juliet, the book explains a lot of it. Want to do me a favor? I asked Toffee while handing her some strawberries. Anything, she said to me. Will you read it to me? Really? Oh my God, yes! There on my mother's bed, right under Bob Marley, she read to me for hours. We laughed and cried together. We made love. We connected while she read my mother's words. and got to know me in a most unique way. The stories inspired her own memories of childhood, and she shared those with me also. After all the stories and poetry had been read, we laid there in the afterglow of our night. Sleepy and emotionally drained, we cuddled in silence for a while. Just as I was about to sleep, Toffee broke the silence. "Promise me something, Davin." "Anything," I whispered into her ear. "Promise we'll keep all the spiders?" "I promise."